Was that me? Was that me? Do you know that boing, that computer sound? It was. It was. Yeah. It wasn't y'all. Okay. Okay. Okay.
Guys, want any food before you start speaking? Okay. I didn't even know that we had this.
Neither did I. Yeah.
All the things that I don't need to know.
Yeah. Two more things. Three more. Is that Maria? Is that Maria from?
Yes.
It is. Yeah. I thought it was, but I wasn't positive. And then I don't want to be like racist, like wrong. You know what I'm saying? I was just gonna let that one go. A lot of people. Sounds like Charles Dillon, right? Yes.
Awesome. Because they just like wander over and like, go see plays, like come in. Whole laundry today. What my
It's so funny. Is the neighborhood that you're at like kids just wander? I mean, it's one of the pros.
It is, yeah. I'm like starting to relax.
Yeah, just leaning into it. Yeah. That's the thing, right? If the kid's happy, it's kind of fucked.
Right.
I don't know if I've ever been.
You can sing that.
Yeah, the past like month or so, I don't know.
Brain nonstop.
Kind of. Yeah. It's fine. A little low. It worries me. But it'll be okay. Right. Bullpen. Right. Gotta, like this morning I was in jail for a few hours and I had to like, Conor, one of us needs to be on call all the time. And I'm usually the one who like manages for care, which is that's for like texting, calling, monitoring your sugar, and making sure that you're eating the right things. And I almost forgot to like tell Shauna to be on it when I'm that I'm
Buenas noches. ¿Me escuchan? Sí, ok. Ya se lograron todos servir. ¿Ya se sirvió comida? Ahí hay bastante comida, por favor. We are going to ask everyone, vamos a pedir a todos que se sirvan. We're going to ask everyone to get themselves some good food. And we are going to start in about 2 minutes. Okay? Vamos a empezar como en un par de minutos, así que si se quieren servir, por favor, o si se quieren repetir también, porque hay suficiente. Y así podemos empezar. Ya. Ya. That's your water, right? Oh, you don't need water? Okay. Yeah, I forgot mine, so I'll put this one here. I was gonna get my phone, but here's my phone. Ahorita lo vuelvo a poner. I'm gonna put it again there. So, thank you. ¿Cómo dicen? Está todo, está todo. Oh, the three of them. Okay, good evening, everyone. Buenas noches. We are very happy to be joining you during this evening. We want to thank you for taking the time in joining us during this presentation. We are the Immigrant and Refugee Commission for the City of Denver. The Immigrant and Refugee Commission, it's a group of people, leaders in the community that get together to discuss issues that affect the immigrant and refugee communities here in the city of Denver. And we advise the mayor on those issues. We make suggestions and try to participate in everything that affects our communities. So we are very excited about joining you here in Montbello. My name is Tony Lemus, and I am the co-chair of the commission. And we are excited to be here. We're very thankful to the Montbello organizing committee, especially to Mayra Gonzalez, because she has been instrumental on this happening. There were some issues that were happening, and Mayra's like, no, we're doing it. Everything is done. Everything is ready. So thank you, Mayra. You rock. The topics that we're going to be talking about tonight is immigration basics. So we're going to be talking and just touching on certain issues about what you should do, about your benefits, about work authorizations and protections, and select immigration issues that are happening. We are not going to be going in depth on them. We're just going to be touching on those, kind of like putting bullet points. But what we want is for you to, as soon as you start hearing about something and you get some ideas or some questions in your mind, to hold them, because what we want to do is try to have enough space for you to ask your questions. So My colleagues are going to be presenting on different issues, and I'm going to introduce them to you. But I wanted to make sure that you all understand that what is the most important part of tonight's presentation is not what they're going to say, is what you're going to ask. Because those questions that you bring to the table are the ones that are going to allow us to expand and to be able to, for them, each are expert in their field. And so for them to try to bring some clarity to some questions that you might have. Okay. So with having said that, staff attorney uh, uh, remain at the Rocky Mountain Immigrant Advocacy Network, and he's also part of our commission. And also Ola Kuyoki. She is an administrator of Pathways for the Integration of New Americans and a resource engagement and prevention for the Denver Human Services for the city of Denver. So thank you all for joining us tonight as well. And so we're going to start with Conor, and then we are going to go down the road. Thank you for everything. And like I said, write down your questions, anything that comes to mind.
I prefer not to use it if that's okay. Thank you. So my name is Conor, and I'm very happy to be here. This room is fantastic, by the way. Folks who are working with Confluence Music Center. My honor to be here, and I walked in here and
Oh, Conor, I'm sorry, you need that, but we're streaming, and that's the only way that people that are online that can hear you.
That's totally fine. Is this working for y'all over there? Great. I was just saying this is a very cool space, and I hope someday my daughter gets to be educated in a space as cool as this one. So here's a very quick brief agenda of some of the things we'll be covering today. In the interest of time, I'm going to move it along. And as Tony said, please write down or think about or remember your questions, because we're definitely want to get to this Q&A at the end. So hold any questions you have for us, please, towards the end. And here we go. There's a little bit about the Rocky Mountain Immigrant Advocacy Network, very briefly. It's the organization in Westminster, and we provide free legal services to individuals who are facing removal, and that includes social services. Cindy is a social worker at the Rocky Mountain Immigrant Advocacy Network, and she helps our clients who are facing removal to their countries of origin navigate the processes and provide wraparound services. So when we get to the benefits portion of the event this evening, Cindy and Ola both are going to have lots of resources to provide and a good kind of starting point for us to have those discussions, because yes, regardless of immigration status, people are eligible for lots of different benefits. So I'm going to be, as like the nerdy lawyer, talking about Immigration Law 101, and I'm going to be starting at the most kind of basic principles, because these principles are going to be relevant to the work authorization, the work permit discussion that we're going to have briefly. So I'm going to briefly touch on the different types of immigration status that are here in the United States. And the reason for that is because whether one is eligible for a work permit and whether one is eligible for certain benefits depends on one's status. So I'm going to talk about kind of the most secure, and by secure I mean least hassle from ICE and least capacity of being removed. And that is going to be a U.S. citizen, right? If somebody is a United States citizen, they are not removable. The government cannot remove them. And one can have citizenship in a variety of ways. That can be because one is born here. That's called birthright citizenship. Another type is naturalization. So going through the process of becoming a green card holder and then applying to become a citizen oneself. Another process is called acquisition of citizenship. I'm actually representing two people at the Aurora Detention Facility right now who I believe acquired citizenship. And that means although they were born in a foreign country, their parents or their grandparents were citizens, and they passed that citizenship on to them. And ICE doesn't
know or not acknowledging that citizenship. And so it's up to my client and myself and his team to demonstrate to ICE and to the judge that they're a citizen. So acquisition of citizenship is a very complicated body of law, but that's one way that someone can be a citizen. Another one is derived citizenship. So we spoke about naturalization before, becoming a citizen of the United States, a green card holder, applying and becoming a citizen. The children of that person who becomes a citizen through naturalization, if they're under 18, they likely became a citizen at that moment that their parent naturalized. It's all more complicated than that, but those are the basics for citizenship. And the proof of one's citizenship is usually a passport. A US passport is the best proof of that. The next most stable status here in the United States is an LPR, a green card holder, a lawful permanent resident. And one can become an LPR either from a petition from abroad, they're outside of the United States, they get the diversity lottery, or someone in the United States petitions to bring them here, and they arrive in the United States as a LPR. Or they can be here in the United States already and petition themselves, either because they're an asylee or a refugee, so someone who fears removal to their country of origin, or through an immigrant visa. So for example, if I'm here, I came on a visitor's visa, and I married a US citizen, my US citizen spouse could petition for me to get my green card because I came here lawfully originally on that visitor's visa. And there's a few other special circumstances related to becoming a green card holder. One is like a special immigrant juvenile status. Others are through non-immigrant visas, which I'm going to go through next. So LPRs are called immigrant visas. You have immigrant intent, meaning one's intent is to stay here permanently. A non-immigrant visa is someone is here lawfully in the United States, but their intent, the basis of that visa, their alleged intent is not to stay permanently. Several examples of non-immigrant visas is a tourist visa, a B1, B2 visa. Someone comes here just to hang out for a little bit. That's a non-immigrant visa. They came here lawfully, but they're supposed to return to their country of origin. Employment visas is another type of temporary visa, as well as student visas. And then one that we're going to get into a little bit more later are U visas. So those are folks who have been victims of crimes. And T visas, folks who have been victims of trafficking. And what's unique about those two visas is that although they're temporary, they're only for a 4-year period, one can petition themselves to become that green card holder within 3 years of receiving that visa. The proof of those non-immigrant visas is usually the I-94. Someone on someone's like foreign passport is usually the primary proof of that. The next less stable status would be DACA. That's deferred action for childhood arrivals, right, that Obama did. And other temporary protected status, TPS, we're going to get into that a little bit more in a moment, as well as withholding and deferral against the Convention Against Torture grantee. So those statuses are only evidenced by a work permit. And we're going to get more into work permits later. And those statuses are not permanent. And those things that are that although one is allowed to be here now, it usually requires renewing the DACA application, filing again every 2 years. Or for the U or for the TPS status, you have to renew that as well every several years. And again, the EAD, Employment Authorization Document, the work permit is the only proof of that status. And then finally, the least stable is obviously no status at all. And that's either because someone came unlawfully over the border, or they came here lawfully and their permission to stay has expired. Oh, you already, oh, no, my bad. Okay, so I mentioned the Special Immigrant Juvenile Status, SIJS. So this is for children who have been, well, people under 21, who've been abused, neglected, or abandoned by one of their parents, or both, but at least one of them. And so if a child is here in the United States and they're unmarried and they experience this parental abuse, neglect, or abandonment, they can apply to USCIS. That's what I like to call like the happy arm of immigration. So United States Citizenship and Immigration Services. That's where people issue green cards. That's where people receive work permits. It's the arm of the Department of Homeland Security that provides documentation to folks. It's not ICE. ICE is the bad arm of the Department of Homeland Security. So one could apply to USCIS and get this special immigrant juvenile status by proving that they were abused, neglected, or abandoned by one of their parents or both their parents, and that they're under 21 and they're unmarried. And they must have to go through a court process in like family court to get like guardianship or something like that prior to that application to USCIS. But this is a fantastic, although of course tragic, but very fantastic and clean way to get permanent residency here in the United States. Because once someone has SIJ, SIJS, they can apply themselves. They don't need someone to petition for them. They apply as their own person to get their own green card, which is unique. Usually you need that petitioner. You need that someone to file for them. But a SIJ, SIJS, SIJ can do it all themselves. Can we hold the top questions till the end? Pardon me? It is hard. And I'm happy to address any questions at the end. I promise. I will stick around. We will stick around. So for asylum, this is a hot topic. It's all over the news, right? For asylum, that's someone who is here in the United States who have a well-founded fear of persecution in their country of origin. Persecution is a term of art. It's a legal term. And it actually means that the person causing the harm is motivated by something that's protected. So let's say I am somebody who's trying to cause harm. If I am trying to cause harm because I want more money and the person who I'm harming has the money, that person is not going to be able to get asylum here because I'm motivated by their money. But if I'm motivated to harm them because of their race, their religion, their political opinion, their nationality, or their membership in a particular social group, if I'm motivated because of one of those things, then that person can get asylum here in the United States if they can prove that to a judge or USCIS. An important thing about asylum is that one must apply within 1 year of their entry to the United States. If one does not file within 1 year of their entry in the United States, they're presumed to be barred from asylum, and you have to meet an exception. It's called an extraordinary circumstance or a changed circumstance. I'm not going to get into all the details of that, but I'm happy to answer questions about those things later. We promised some select immigration law updates. Here's where one I think is relevant for today's discussion is about asylum. There used to be the orange man in the White House, whose name I will not mention. And he did something called a ban, right? He made asylum very difficult for people. Biden is actually doing something similar. And so what he did is anybody who's arriving between May of 2023 or May of 2025 must enter the United States through a lawful pathway. And that's either on these parole programs that they've created for certain designated countries like Ukraine, Venezuela, Haiti, Nicaragua, a few others. So if you come through that lawful pathway, or if you're attempting to enter on the border, and they made this thing called the CBP1 app. It's an application on one's phone. And you actually ask for like an entered time. It's like making a reservation on your phone. And if you make that reservation on your phone and present at the border, then you can apply for asylum that way. But if someone between those dates, May 2023, May 2025, enters the United States unlawfully and not via the CBP1 app, they're banned from asylum, which is extremely harsh. And so it's very upsetting for immigrant rights advocates like myself that Biden is doing these things because it's against many promises he made us when he was elected into office. Of note, although asylum is the one everybody hears about because it's the most protective, there are other forms of fear-based relief. They're called withholding of removal and relief under the Convention Against Torture. Those things are beyond the scope of today, but I'm happy to chat about those things. If someone's banned from asylum, they could still be eligible for those two other forms of relief. They're just much harder to get. So deferred action for childhood arrivals, DACA. I mean, this is before SCOTUS today. I didn't SCOTUS. By that, I mean the Supreme Court of the United States. The legality of whether this exists for children is currently being litigated. And I was maybe going to update this slide if the Supreme Court issued a ruling today, but it's likely to come out tomorrow because tomorrow is the last day of its term. But the basics for DACA is one must have been born after June 16th, 1981, yet entered the United States before they're 16, and have lived in the United States since June of 2007, and attended school here, and not have certain criminal legal contacts. And if you can show that you did those things to USCIS, you get a work permit and a promise not to be deported for 2 years. And then you can just renew that every 2 years. And so here's the select immigration law update. That Trump tried to end DACA in 2017. It's been running through the courts since then. And like this is 6 years later. So the legality of DACA is before SCOTUS. That's Supreme Court of the United States. And that's not a court particularly that I trust these days. But we're going to hold out hope that the court does the right thing and keeps DACA alive. TPS, temporary protected status. So this is supposed to be a temporary status for people whose countries of origin are in ongoing conflict, have a recent environmental disaster, or there's other extraordinary things happening in their country of origin where the Secretary of the United States, the Secretary of Homeland Security, excuse me, is like, yeah, we shouldn't be removing people to this country right now because it's not in a good state to receive people being removed. Certain countries right now that have TPS designation are Afghanistan, Myanmar, Cameroon, El Salvador, Ethiopia, Haiti, Honduras, Nepal, Nicaragua, Somalia, South Sudan, Syria, Ukraine, Venezuela, and Yemen. So if somebody's from those countries, that's their original country of origin, and they've been here since the country was designated. That's the thing. Someone must have already been here when the country is designated. So Venezuela was recently designated-ish. And an update, okay, is that El Salvador, Honduras, Nepal, and Nicaragua were recently redesignated after Trump tried to de-designate them. So that's an important update. With respect to employment authorization, so I went over that quick recap of the different statuses. Why I did that is because whether someone is eligible for a work permit depends on their status. If one is a green card holder, so an LPR, or if one is a citizen, they don't need a work permit to work. Those statuses, inherent in those statuses, is an ability to work here lawfully. However, the rest of the statuses we just ran through may not necessarily come immediately with a work permit. One must apply for it. So I know this is the super nerdy immigration lawyer thing in me, but I got to do it sometimes. That's what I am. It's in my soul. If you ever Google 8 CFR 247A.12, there's a long list of statuses or people with pending applications who are eligible for a work permit. Not the person's names, excuse me, but the type of status. So for example, if one is one filed an asylum application, they are eligible for a work permit because their application will be found in 8 CFR 247A.12 C8, for example, because that's the section in the law where an person pending for asylum can apply. People who have pending applications for cancellation of removal. So they're in removal proceedings. The government's trying to deport them, but they filed an application to stay here. That pending application gives them a work permit, gives them the right to file for a work permit. A pending asylum application, like I said, gives one a right to file for a work permit. People with TPS, people with U visas, with T visas, they have the right to get a work permit. People who are ordered removed, post-final order. They've been ordered removed already, and they have no chance of not being ordered removed, but for whatever reason, the government can't physically remove them. That happens more than you would think. That person may also be eligible for a work permit. But in general, what I want to convey today is that not everybody is allowed to lawfully work in this country, which is ridiculous, in my personal opinion, not speaking on Dirk's behalf or anybody's behalf. But one actually have to, their situation must be a recognized one to be allowed to work. This is my last slide, and then I'm done talking for a while. I'm sure y'all are happy with that. So, one thing that I think about when I see somebody with a work permit, honestly, my first thought is they're likely in an unstable immigration situation. Because like I said, green card holders don't need a work permit, right? Because they just can be, citizens don't need a work permit. But if one has a work permit, to me, that usually means either they're in transit, as in like an application is pending, or they're in one of those statuses that's like temporary and maybe not as secure. I've said these things. One other note, it can take upward from 60 to like a year and change for a work permit application to be processed. A work permit is often the first step to getting a social security number, which is pretty sweet. And finally, the application, if y'all kind of want to nerd out on the internet, you can check out, you can Google I-765. And you can look at the website there, and it'll detail what the requirements are for a work permit, what one needs to file. And the website is actually somewhat navigable. It's okay. There's a fee for it though, not to be on the website, but the application itself costs $410. Yeah. That, I believe, is it from me. Thanks.
Hi, everybody. Can you all hear me? Okay. So, as it says, my name is Ola Kukoyi. When you know Ola in Spanish, hola. Once you know hola, you take out the H, that's me right there. And I'm here to talk to you about the pathways to the integration of new Americans. It's a new program that is being managed by me at the Denver Human Services, the city and county of Denver. So let's find out about this program. Next slide. Let's start by saying, who are new Americans? Can you give me an idea? If you know who, when we say new Americans, can somebody tell me who those are? New Americans, what do we mean by that? Without checking the slide. Somebody is glad. Okay. So have you ever heard the word new Americans? If you have heard, raise your hand. You've never heard about it. Okay. I'm one of them. Actually, I'm a new American. And I want to quickly say new American does not mean that you just arrived in the US maybe a few years ago, just yesterday, because I will be 20 years come July, but I'm still a new American. And why is that? It's because new Americans are those who originally either were not born in this country or they have at least one parent that wasn't born here. So if you are not born here, if you are foreign born like me, or you have at least one parent that was not born here, you're a new American. And we can go all there, come in different categories like my colleague has talked about here. Let's move on to the next. So, what is the history or the story behind PINA, which is what I just told you, the program? Why did this program come into place? I want to go down memory lane by telling you about what happened back in November 2019. In November 2019, Governor Polis and his staff, that's the governor's office, looked at the data that shows that new Americans, immigrants, refugees, and their children have contributed so much to the economy of this country, of this state. And they turn around and see they found out that they've not been accessing the government services like every American should access. So what we'll say is that they contribute so much, but they are giving the short end of the stick. And the question now is, can you imagine if we are able to give them all the resources they need to be able to contribute more? It's going to benefit everybody, including the state. So that is why the New American Initiative was created back in 2019, even before COVID. Next slide. So what's the mission of this program? Is to provide avenues for people like me and some of you here to reach their highest potential. And being able, and how can they do that? Being able to access government resources just like every American. That's the mission statement. And they do that by making sure that we partner with different stakeholders, community partners, both internal and external. Now, the vision statement is even much better. We want to make sure that we provide all resources available across the board for every new American that have access, that have the eligibility or what do you call it, that is eligible for these resources, to make sure that they can have them. So you can see we start with 3 E's. Can you read the 3 E's out for me? The first one is empower. The second one, elevate. The third one, excel. Thank you very much. We first empower them with resources, which will help them to excel, which help them to elevate them to the next level. And once they get to the next level, they're able to excel, and that means they are able to sustain their whatever they have. And that's what we have there, the hashtag New Americans Thrive. So if you're a new American, don't forget this hashtag New Americans Thrive, and make sure that you are able to access all the resources you need to thrive. Next slide. So in order to achieve this empowerment, we look into 6 strategic pillars. We believe that these pillars is what's going to help new Americans to thrive or to integrate into the American society. We are going to start, help me here. The first one on top is what? The first one? Quality education. I want to make sure that you are hearing me. Quality education. And the next one on the right, sustainable employment opportunities. What we are saying is that you get a job that will help you pay your bills and will help you pay rent and all the things that you need to pay, and you still have some left. That's what we mean by sustainable employment. And the other one right behind it, holistic healthcare. What do we mean by that? Holistic healthcare is healthcare that cuts across the board: physical, emotional, mental, and what have you. That is holistic healthcare. And the one right behind it, reliable transportation. Thank you very much. We won't all be here if we don't have reliable transportation. You need that to successfully integrate into the American society. And after that, housing resources. Yeah, we know Colorado, housing is an issue, right? It is an issue. Some people spend up to 50% of their income on housing. This is one thing we are trying to combat, housing resources. And the last one, last but not the least, food access. Yeah, you see, when you came in here today, what did we offer you? Food. If you're not eating food, please go get some. Food access. Food is so important for us to be able to integrate, and not just any food, food that is also something that you like. Some of you like food that comes from your ethnic. Yeah, you are nodding your head. Thank you very much. That is it. We want food that makes us happy, makes us healthy. So food access is important. Next slide. So how do we run this program? The first thing we want to do is to develop trust. Trust between the community and the city or the government. I come from a government in my country of home country that I couldn't trust the government. If the government was doing something very well, I wouldn't be here anyway, but they messed up. So that's why I'm here. Anyway, creating trust with immigrants and community, just like here, by building what you call community building and engagement. That's why we are here in the Montbello community. We are here to tell you information that will help you and will help you be successful. And we chose to come to the community. So building trust. How do we want to build trust? The first thing we want to do is spotlight areas in the community where you have a concentration of foreign-born neighborhoods. So just like Montbello, we found out Montbello, Green Valley Ranch, Globeville, Elyria, Swansea, Westwood, Park Hill, all these neighborhoods I'm mentioning, you have a lot of immigrants and refugees there. And that is why we are here to pass this information to you so that information, it's powerful because it empowers you. Another thing too, once we are able to do that, we also spotlight leaders in the community that we could talk to that will help us. And that is why we were able to partner with MOC. Is Mera there? Mera is one of the community leaders in MOC that we're able to partner with so that we can do this job, so that we can pass this information to you. And of course, another thing which this community does, this program will be doing, is also organize quarterly sessions where we'll bring what you call subject matter experts to come and talk to us about topics or concerns or things that you want to find more about, like my colleagues here that came to tell you about what immigration is and how you can access and make sure that you're able to do the right thing and get your work permit and all the things you need to do so that you can thrive. So those are the subject matter experts in which we bring up on board when we're with this committee. I'll go to the next slide. So another thing we want to do is make sure that we are not only passing out the information, the resources, we are bringing it to you through a cultural lens. We want to make sure that we can customize those information to you. And that is why my lady down there is trying to make sure she's able to translate what I'm saying for those who are not able to understand me. That is applying the cultural lens. And because it's so important for us to do that when we are providing these resources. And also give what you call service delivery. We are providing service delivery with a unique cultural lens. We also conduct quarterly review and offer solutions to provide those resource gaps that we need for you to be able to thrive in the American society. Next slide. So this is the service structure in providing this program. We start with referrals. We get referrals from both internal and external stakeholders. And also I have my business card is there. You can always reach me to say, I need some resources within, I need to access some services or programs within Denver Human Services. How can I get it? And my job is to help connect you to those resources without you jumping so many hoops. We also host and co-host community engagements. At the end of today, my colleague there, Mira, is going to be telling you there's an event coming up on July 12th. We are hosting to give you more information about the program and how you can access our programs and services. And we also do resource sharing, shared knowledge, because nobody knows it all. And that is also something that the program does. Next slide. So if you want to do referral, there's the QR code. If you put your phone across to it, and you can be able to catch, get it and do that referral and get it across to me. Let me know what you need and what you're trying to, or maybe you apply to Denver Human Services and you've not gotten your Medicaid or your SNAP or whatever and you're trying to do that, or there's a long delay. You can reach out to me and say, Ola, how can you help me? And I call on the phone and I'm on the phone for maybe 2, 3, 4 hours. Nobody's returning my calls. How can you be of help? That is something I'm also willing to do. I can see some people have their phones on. Have you captured it? Can we move on? Everybody captured it? Thank you very much. Let's move on. So now let's talk about Denver Human Services. This is the umbrella for the program. Just talked about the program I manage, but this is the umbrella. Denver, how many of you have heard about Denver Human Services? Oh yes, you can miss it. Yeah. So what's the mission of Denver Human Services? What they aim to do is work with different community partners in the community to make sure that they are able to protect anyone who is going through any kind of harm or injury, and also assist everybody that is in need, whether you are documented or undocumented, assisting everybody that needs the services. What's the vision? We have a vision. What we are trying to do is make sure that every community in Denver is able to be healthy, live a healthy life, and be connected, supported, safe, and well. Next slide. Human together. We are all together. We are all in this together. That is why you talk about human together. And look at what we have for human together. Health and wellness, equity and access, very important. We didn't say equality, we said equity. Equity and access, that is access to all resources across the board. Economic resilience, being able to thrive financially, economically. And the last one there that is cut off is workforce. Employment, so important. Because without a good, sustainable job, you cannot thrive in this society. Next slide. And we talk about FAD. How many of you have heard about FAD? FAD, it has to do with family, adults, and division. Sorry? No, it's division, yeah. So yeah, FAD is one of the divisions that is under Denver Human Services, and they do a lot. It's a very big division. You can't miss it. And what do we do in FAD? Food assistance, cash assistance, medical assistance through Medicaid. The food assistance is through SNAP. Have you heard of SNAP? Supplementary program for the food. So that is it. You can't miss that. Then we have child care assistance, child support, jobs, shelter and housing, additional assistance. You can't miss it. And through cash assistance, we talk about the TANF program, temporary assistance to needy families. Yeah, so there's a lot. And if you want to access it, you have to download the Colorado PIC, or you call this number 720-9444-DHS or 4347. And once you call that number, let them know that you want to apply for PIC. And by applying to PIC, you have access to all the programs that Denver Human Services offers. Let's move on. There's another one called General Assistance. And that's different from FAD, which is, yes. And you see what it says here? General Assistance has nothing to do with your status. And what does General Assistance offer? But we want you to be a Denver County resident for you to be eligible. But there are so many things it offers. You have deposit, eviction. If you have problems with paying your rent, let us know. If you have mortgage, paying HOA fees, family reunification, important. Energy assistance through LEAP. You've heard of LEAP? Yeah. And also, we also give food and gift cards. So general assistance is a good way in which Denver Human Services help those who are in need. Next slide. And let's look at here. So these are also other resources that we offer. If you go to denvergov.org, or there's another one called Neighborhood Resource Sites. If you look at that table right there, they have some cards there that you can use your QR code to get access to the resources, not just in Denver, but also in your neighborhood. You have the EBT card pickup, that is for cash assistance. You have the drop boxes. There is a welcome center now that you can go to, and you have to book an appointment. You go there, and they'll be able to help you. There is what you call document runner service. I think that one came on board because of COVID. So even if you can't come to this to the building or to call, just call for that document runner. They'll come and pick up the document or your paperwork and take it to the building so that they can help you with whatever you are requesting for, and they'll drop it back to you. So that is really good document runner service. So you don't even have to leave your home. The next one, please. So service delivery. These are all the things I've just mentioned. There is the same thing here. It's mentioned, it's all connecting to customers in specific neighborhoods, and all these child support assistance programs, resource navigation. There are so many resources out that, so what I'm trying to say to you that you have every opportunity to access resources within the city and county of Denver, which we are here today. And if you have any problems, feel free to reach out to me or to reach out to pick up some information there, and we'll be able to provide for you. There's so many things we do, even burial assistance. God forbid, if you have a family that died and you need assistance to do funeral, you can apply, and they will give you some burial, give you assistance, some money to help bury whoever your family is. So there's a lot. And I would like to stop here because we don't want to take too much of your time. But feel free, I'm going to be here. Feel free to reach out to me. I'd like to answer your questions and also provide you with more resources. Thank you. Mil gracias.
Hi, you all. Again, my name is Cindy. I'm a social worker at Remain, and I'm just going to kind of wrap things up by touching on a few themes of services that are available, similar to what Ola was talking about, but just naming a few other organizations, agencies around the metro area that work on different topics or address different needs. And then we'll round up with rights that everybody has regardless of immigration status, so we can advocate for ourselves and others in the community. So starting out, I know Conor talked a little bit about employment authorization cards and other forms of identification that can be useful that serve different purposes. IDs are critical to everything from getting a job to enrolling kids in school to prove. IDs are really valuable. And in the state of Colorado, everyone, regardless of immigration status, can apply for and obtain a state ID and a driver's license. Recently, they opened up all DMV locations. So the offices in the state of Colorado used to be restricted to just a few locations, a few offices throughout the state that issued driver's license and ID cards to non-citizens. But recently, they opened up all offices, DMV offices throughout the state. So to make it more accessible, to reduce the backlog of appointments for people who are trying to apply for an ID and a driver's license. So the main thing there is to note the website. There's a list of documents that you need to take with you to an appointment to demonstrate your identity, your residence. So like your address, you have to prove how long you've been staying in the state. And also your social security number, which can be anything from a social security card to an ITIN, to a pay stub. So things like that But the website has a really comprehensive list of documents that they accept to prove these things. And if you don't have one of the documents that they require, there is a list of exceptions. Note that there is no exception for an ITIN number. So I was talking earlier with a few people from Mi Casa Resource Center about the value of ITINs. And I put that up there because it's another form of identification or another document that can be really valuable for a lot of processes currently, like if you want to open up a business, and also for the future, if you end up applying for immigration status, an ITIN number allows you to pay taxes, which then can be really beneficial to prove good character or other things that can be useful for immigration status in the future. I'll just say that there is assistance to file taxes, to apply for ITIN numbers. The key phrase is VITA, for Volunteer Tax Assistant. I don't remember what it stands for. If you Google VITA assistance, it's there's a website that lists certified volunteers who help with taxes and ITIN number applications. Okay, so these next few slides, I am just going to breeze through, but the main message that I want to convey is that there are services in the community that everyone should be able to access regardless of immigration status or eligibility for benefits or federal benefits or state benefits. And when I say should be able to access, it's recognizing that it can still be really difficult to enroll and access necessary and quality services. So behavioral health needs, to break down behavioral health, that usually includes mental health. So anything from depression to a psychotic disorder, so hearing voices and things, to anxiety or stress or feeling lonely, combined with maybe using drugs or alcohol that in a way that becomes harmful to ourselves or other people. And there is support for that. And it is accessible to people who aren't able to pay or don't have medical insurance. Integrated care combines behavioral health and physical health, so medical care. There's a list of community-based clinics that provide accessible services to people in the community. Sometimes it does carry a fee, and sometimes a lot of the clinics are able to work with people to come up with payment plans or find ways to make necessary care available. And then physical health, I just listed a couple of clinics that provide physical health care only, and the two main ones are the Ardes Family Clinic, which is in Mango House down on Colfax, and they provide free care, absolutely free. You don't need an appointment. You just walk in. The only thing you do need is an interpreter. They don't provide interpretation. And they also have a dental clinic there. For the dental clinic, you need to make an appointment. And then the Worthmore Clinic is dental care, free dental care. Crisis and essential needs. So if you find yourself in a crisis, if there's a violent incident that happened, or you're in any kind of a crisis, I just listed a few different types of crises, types of situations where and organizations, agencies, and supports that are available. Note, one thing that I do want to note on there is recently there has been a new national hotline that addresses suicide and mental health crises specifically, and that number is 988. So if you or somebody you know is encountering a mental health crisis including feeling suicidal or so desperate, suicidal, rather than calling 911, which might bring the police. Calling 988 initiates a crisis response, an emergency response that will bring healthcare or mental health care providers specifically to address a mental health need. Okay. Next slide, Connor. Advocacy and social connection. So we know that one of the biggest issues that a lot of new Americans face is feeling isolated, surrounded by a new, different culture, a new society, aside from being jerked out of familiar home, family, environment, plants, foods that we're familiar with. And social connection can be really powerful and necessary to address, to support some of those things. And so a couple of organizations that, yes, provide practical services and needs, but also provide social connection and community. The American Friends Service Committee is primarily an advocacy organization, but they also have a roundtable that is provides a community to support each other for people who are either at risk of detention and deportation, or whose family members or they themselves have been detained or in the process of deportation. There's a couple of other organizations here. Labor rights, disability rights. Know that everyone in the U.S. has the right to be paid for employment and be free from discrimination based on a disability. And there are organizations in Colorado that support and uphold those rights. Okay. There are also organizations that do it all. So in addition, similar to what Ola was describing with Denver Human Services, there are some other organizations around the metro area that provide support, like Focus Points Family Resource Center in Aurora, provides educational programming, support for families and youth. They provide healthcare and health programming, connection to resources and job resources. Servicios de la Raza provides a whole bunch of services and resources and information. One thing that they really have been providing a lot more of lately that can be really useful is healthcare access. So helping, if somebody is eligible for Medicaid, they help enroll with that. But even beyond that, they help navigate and find other ways that people can access healthcare. So each one of these organizations provides a whole bunch of services and resources. And so it's worth it. I put the phone numbers up for each one of them. And that's the best way to find out the details of when and where and what each place does, is to just call and ask. Okay. Next. Okay. And now just really briefly, Conor and Ola both talked about a lot of rights that people have under legal statuses and rights in being able to establish ourselves as new Americans in the state of Colorado. And a few additional things that everybody should know that you have a right to just by being a human in the United States is you have access to free public education for kindergarten through 12th grade. And within that, and these are a couple of really important things within that are young people who have disabilities, physical or mental, also have access to have the right to access education. And so if kids need an accommodation, like if they can't, if they have more difficulty paying attention, they have a right to interventions and support in the school system to be able to access quality education. The same with students without stable housing, also have access to a lot of rights and supports. Let me just touch on a couple more. We talked about that. Payment, one really important one is that while people without legal status might not be able to work with a legal permission, they have a right to receive payment for work. And they also have a right to be free from discrimination in the workplace based on, based on a whole bunch of different factors. And so earlier in the slides, there were a couple of labor rights organizations that help advocate for people who've been discriminated in the workplace or who have not received wages for work that they've done. Okay. I'm just going to leave it there.
Thank you all. Thank you for the amazing amount of information you provided. Now it's your turn. We want to answer any questions that you might have, anything that you feel you want to have a little bit more information. Remember, whatever you ask is going to help the whole community. So don't feel like, oh, my question is not so good, because probably your question and the answer they're gonna give is going to help everybody.
Do I just do one?
I would say, yeah, let's go one by one.
First of all, thank you very much for that presentation. My name is Pam Giner. I am the co-chair of the Montbello Registered Neighborhood Organization. I'm also executive director for Montbello Walks, which is a community health program. And I have questions for my Chinese citizens, my African residents, my foster children. I've fostered for mental health, for Denver Health for 13 years. And I still have a 26-year-old who is not yet a U.S. citizen from Mexico because her, I guess, drugs, trafficking, violence, she was taken by the system and she still does not have resources. But my question, let me start with green card holders. I have a 73-year-old who is from China. Her daughter lives in Lakewood. They're all Chinese. I don't know if her daughter was born here or not, but she is having trouble getting health services like Medicaid, Medicare, or whatever. I stood on the phone or sat on the phone for 2.5 hours waiting for human services to answer to get her some medical assistance. And the end result was she's been in the United States for over 8 years. They had signed her up for CHIP or C-CHIP, CPHC or whatever. She's over the age of childbearing. She does not have any little children. So that was inappropriate. It was only a 3-month temporary coverage for her anyway, but she still does not have health care. And she's never worked in the United States. She's 73 going on 74. 8 years back, she's still over the age to work, but she has 0 income. 0. And her daughter's family is a little strained right now trying to help support her. She lives in VOA out here, and I would love to have you come out and talk to our elders. We have a lot from Ghana, Nigeria, Ethiopia. We have Mexicans there from Mexico, and they're all elders, and they need, I mean, they're living on pennies. It's not okay. So I don't know what to do for her or for them, my seniors. Very concerned about that.
Yeah, thank you for saying that. There is what you call old age benefit, and it is one of the programs that is even a state-sponsored program. So you only need to be a resident in Denver, or resident of the state, and 60 years old for you to be able to have access to old age benefit. I think you can get up to about $900 a month for that. So definitely I'd like to talk with you. I'd like to come down so that we can talk more. But yeah, there are services available. There is also what you call the Adult Protection Services in Denver Human Services, making sure that adults are being provided for, that they are being supported, both physically, mentally, and what have you. So I just wanted to let you know, no adult, especially old age person, should be able to go through whatever you are saying right now in Denver, especially if they are these people all residents? That means they have the legality to live in the US. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. You only need to have that. If you have the legality, then they should be applying for old age benefits. Thank you.
Thank you, Ola. Any other question? If not, we continue with her. ¿Otra pregunta?
Hola, esta pregunta es para el abogado. Mi nombre es Lupita. Solo estoy preguntando qué ha salido de nuevo en la ley para todas las personas que tenemos por más de 25 años ilegales. Me imagino algo que nos pueda consolar en el futuro.
I don't need a translation.
Yeah.
Totally. All right. So our Lupita, muy buenas tardes, un placer. Lupita was asking a question about, for people who have been here for 25 years, so people who have been here without status for a very long time, is there any hope? Is there any degree of chance that something's going to change? Sí, eso fue su pregunta, ¿cierto? Si hay esperanza en el futuro para la gente que han estado aquí por mucho tiempo. Yeah. Sin permiso, pues. Yeah. Well, I wish I could, yeah. As of right now, no. The current Congress is not interested in addressing, I think, this crisis, unfortunately. Unless my esteemed panelists have any insight into what's been going on in Congress that I don't, but I do follow it pretty closely. And there are some limited bills. So I mentioned SIJ before, Special Immigrant Juvenile Status. And I said before, the person can petition themselves to get their green card. There's a wait list for that, petitioning oneself. And there's a bill now proposed in Congress so that the wait list goes away. So there's small things like that where people are trying to pick out issues that they think they can easily tackle. But in terms of something that, like what Reagan did in the 80s, like the legalization of anybody who's been here for a long time, there's nothing really hopeful there. I'm sorry.
Hi, my name is Mark. I'm with Mikasa Resource Center. I'm also a volunteer with the Aurora Immigrant and Refugee Commission. But I know last year here in Colorado, they passed Senate Bill 21-199, which has to do with lawful presence. And I believe, just to kind of get a clarification, I work with people who are trying to start businesses, and a lot of times they need permits, certifications, and according to that law, my understanding is that they are no longer can be asked to provide that particular document when they're applying for a permit or a certificate of some kind. Can you just kind of clarify that, Conor? Thank you.
Are you speaking about something that passed, that Polis just signed this session? Okay. That I can't, I'm sorry. Do anybody else? Y'all know?
But they don't have to show that they're from here or documented here.
Yeah, the only thing that I know or would recommend is there's an organization called the Colorado Immigrant Rights Coalition, and they did a lot of advocacy around that legislation, and they have more information up on their website about that because it was one of their legislative wins. So the Colorado Immigrant Rights Coalition.
And I also want to add that I would love to connect with you since you work with Mikasa to see how we can collaborate together and better serve our immigrant and refugee communities. But thank you for what you do. I know about Mikasa. You guys do an awesome job. Thank you.
Hola, buenas tardes. Mi nombre es Judith Padilla. Mi pregunta es para el abogado de inmigración. Una persona que entró a Estados Unidos en el 2004 y la agarraron 2 veces, le tomaron huellas, la sacaron de Estados Unidos y a la fecha sigue aquí después de 19 años prácticamente y es víctima de 4 casos. ¿Qué procede si hace la aplicación como víctima?
So the question is, pues, I'm going to ask in Spanish real quick to make sure I got the question correct. Entonces, para asegurar que tengo la pregunta, que entiendo la pregunta, que alguien aquí que entró en 2004 fue agarrado 2 veces en la frontera, sacaron las huellas las 2 veces, pero después reentró y ya lleva 19 años acá y fue víctima 4 veces de un crimen, un delito acá. ¿Cierto? Okay. And so the question is whether what rights are, what process is there maybe for somebody who entered the United States in 2004. However, they were attempting to enter unlawfully and they were captured or detained by the Border Patrol folks. Their fingerprints were taken, but then they eventually successfully re-entered and they've been here for 19 years, but they've unfortunately been the victim of a crime on 4 separate occasions. What is this person able to do? So there's something, the first thing that comes to my head without knowing more about this person is that I should inquire about what's called a U visa. So a U visa, someone is eligible for that regardless of whether they've been ordered removed in the past. Based on the facts you've given to me here, my guess is that at least one, or if not both, of those contacts at the border resulted in a deportation. Sometimes at the border, people are agarrados in my head, detained or like taken briefly and just sent back and actually not ordered removed. Not every time, but usually, especially these days, that is what happens. And so I would first research to ensure whether this person does have a deportation order. And I can write some things down for you before we leave so that you can do some more research on the web. But the first thing would be to a FOIA request, which is a Freedom of Information Act request about one's own immigration history, because you want to know what ICE knows about you. And if someone was on the border and they took their fingerprints, that means ICE knows things about you. And you want to know what they have. You want to know, they have a file. You want that file. So you file a FOIA request to know what ICE has. And then the U visa. So if someone has been a victim of a crime, not any crime, there's only a certain type of crimes. I think there's 23 different types of crimes that are, actually, I don't think the list is that long. It might be like 14. But there's a list of crimes where if someone has been a victim of that and they've cooperated with law enforcement or the prosecutor or the Department of Labor, if it was a labor, like economics-based crime, to prosecute the people that did the crime against them, they can then move forward for a U visa. So the question I would have is whether they cooperated to seek justice for the crime that they were victim of, and make sure the person knows what ICE knows about them. But I'll write more of this down for you so you can have places to go and look for more information, because it's a little bit more complicated than that too.
Unfortunately, we run out of time. I'm going to thank our panelists for their presentations tonight. They're still going to be around for a few minutes if you have questions or if you want to get their phone numbers or any other information. But once again, I really want to thank the Mombello Organizing Committee for helping us bring this to the community. Thank you all for coming tonight. I know you have your list of questions, so feel free to approach them. But thank you all for being here, and hopefully we can have more of these sessions soon with this community and with other communities around the city. So thank you once again, and have a wonderful evening.